Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to a summer edition of the Genesys Cloud Community's Q&A show, the show where we answer your hot questions in the Genesys Cloud online community. My name is Matt Lawson. I'm your online community manager, and this special episode came from a member just like you. They wrote because they were having trouble figuring out a good overview of the operational console. They asked if we could cover it on the show. Naturally, I did everything I could to oblige them. And before we recorded, we posted in the community to ask what questions you had. Thank you to everyone who participated in that thread. We will be getting to your answers after this quick overview from Chris. Chris, I was really happy when somebody emailed to say they wanted to learn more about the operational console because when I heard about it, I wasn't even sure exactly what they were talking about. I won't lie to you. I was wondering, to get this conversation started before we answer the questions that came in, can you maybe talk a little bit about what is the operational console? How is it used? How do you get to it? The value, all those great things. Just kind of set the stage for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the operational console is really our way of answering customers' request to have more visibility into their environment. So obviously we do a lot to bring you guys a great product and a great platform. But sometimes there are issues or scenarios which don't impact Genesys Cloud, but do impact you. And it's important that we try to get those events and those details, that observability to you. And so that's really the goal of the operational console. And I will pull up my screen really quick, share a little bit about how to get there. So it's within the admin page. So once you come in here, if you have the admin privileges, and then you have the permission of essentially usage view, and all those details are on the troubleshooting about operational console. When you come in here, you'll come down to troubleshooting, and then you'll look at the operational console. And then that's going to pull up the view, which is going to just automatically provide the last 10 days of events. And then here you can navigate, you can either restrict what type of event definition ID you're looking for. You can do a specific search if there's a specific entity that you're interested in. Maybe if you've identified that a specific flow is broken and you know what entity ID it is and you want to narrow down and see the operational event associated to it. And then within here, we're going to have those additional details. So this is going to be the name of what occurred, as well as the entity ID, which this is going to be defined a little bit differently across each different event definition ID type, which I'll show you in a second how you can understand what entity ID refers to. But it's just going to have a lot of the details that help you identify how to troubleshoot those things. But when you come over here, you're going to see or be able to open up the event catalog, but within the operational console view. And so this is going to provide you a definition of what the event means, as well as kind of the TLDR. And then outside of that, what the expected behavior is, and then how to investigate and some of the things you could do to address it. And the important here is it's going to define what the entity ID means, what the parent entity means, and be able to identify really how to troubleshoot and then validate if that did correct the issue.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much for being the first person to come on this show and use the phrase TLDR. I feel like it's way overdue. So thank you for that. When we were talking off camera just a little bit, you mentioned one of the things I really find fascinating about this tool, it actually started as an internal tool that Genesys employees were using, but we just, last year released it to customers? Is that right?
Yeah, so we released the service to customers end of last year, and the UI came out just a couple months ago. Okay. And so, yes, a lot of the events are within the operational console are the same events that we have alerting and thresholding and things on. It's really about how do we identify real time, how to get these events directly to you so that you guys can take the same potentially troubleshooting steps that we might.
Okay, awesome. And one of the questions I always get asked when we do a segment like this, does this come pre-installed in my environment? Do I need to download anything? Does it cost anything to add this to my subscription?
Nope, nope. This is included, is part of every customer, and you only need the admin role and then the right permission set to be able to access.
The next couple of questions are frequently asked questions that come in a lot, and we just kind of gathered them to make sure they get addressed here because we think the information will be good for everybody. So the first question is related to documentation for triggers that was in the announcement. Are you looking to add operational console events to process automation triggers?
Yes, yeah, that's something that we're looking to add here actually as part of the next operational console release. So I can show you just real quickly. So specifically, it'll again be within the trigger environment. It'll be a new topic name that you can subscribe to. And then from there, you can set up an architect flow and do a lot of interesting things. You may kick off a data action, send an email. This specific workflow target I used was for creating an email. So again, I was able to initiate, send an email to myself whenever any sort of operational console event occurred. And so it just sends it in a JSON format, and then it provides just another way of consuming that data. So then I can go into the UI and evaluate it.
Okay, cool, nice. Let's see here. Another question is, what type of alerting is on the roadmap for the operational console? I don't see a way to be notified when events occur.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a very big piece of something that we're working on. So triggers will provide some of that initial value. So you can configure, whether it's SMS or email or data action, or funneling traffic to a specific queue. However, we are working on a easier to consume notification or alert. So we're in the process of adding the operational console to the alert management tooling that currently exists within Genesys. In addition, there are some enhancements being made to the notification as a whole within Genesys Cloud, and as part of that project, the operational console is being kind of folded into that. So there's some native alerting through the alerting service and notification engines that are already within Genesys Cloud, but outside of that, for immediate use, we have the triggers that you be able to configure that workflow and then set up alerts that way.
All right, cool, awesome. What should I do when I get an operational event?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work to include a lot of those details within the documentation. So within the event catalog. So if you come in here, for example, and you look at the audio hook event, it's going to walk you through specifically what the event means, the potential causes, as well as how to investigate and troubleshoot. Just recently, we introduced the ability within the operational console to pull up those details as well.
Oh, cool.
So within this view, you can kind of jump between the different details so that hopefully it's one less field for you to be able to look at. But that is something that we recently introduced.
Just real quick while you're here, how do you get to the operational console in this admin?
Sure. So it's going to be right next to the audit viewer. So if you come to the admin page and you go down to troubleshooting, you'll see it down here next to log capture and audit viewer.
Okay.
And so when you open this up, you have these. And then it's going to include the additional details right here, which does have a copy function to it. So any of these fields you select will automatically copy for you.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. All right. Let me see here. Where can I see all the available operational console events?
Gotcha. Yep. So that's going to be back at the event catalog. You're going to be able to see all of the currently available events. We do normally try to add events before they're available within the operational console. So you'll see like a is preview or preview flag on the event. as we're kind of finalizing the steps to publish it over the operational console. So sometimes you'll see an event ahead of time that lets you get a little bit more familiar with it. But in addition to that, we are working to include these in like release notes so you can see when or be notified when we're adding new events to the console.
Okay. This next question I think is kind of interesting. How do you determine which events are added to the operational console? And I guess part of that would be, can a user add their own events?
Sure. We do not have custom events at this time, just because a lot of the events were really going down to the atomic level, what's occurring within our system that identifies something that might be important for you to be notified about. In terms of adding new events, a key piece of the process is really getting feedback from customers, support teams, development teams, and it takes a lot of input and usually starts with the use case specifically. And then from there, we identify what that atomic level event is and then extrapolate what are the troubleshooting steps a customer could go down to be able to self-service. And so a big piece of that, like I mentioned, is feedback from customers like yourself, where we can actually understand what issues you're running into and then be able to peel back the layers to identify what sort of event we need to publish. And then we go through our process of adding.
Okay, cool. What is the next biggest piece of work on the roadmap for the operational console?
Yeah, so after this release here in July, which is going to introduce triggers and some other UI enhancements, as well as the multi-select and deselect, we have what's referred to as cross-dashboard navigation. And so the goal of that, and kind of what I showed you earlier with the architect replay mode, is we want to provide a easy clickable button where you can go into the next screen to be able to resolve whatever issue it is. So the goal of that is from the operational console, if you need to manage your telephony edge, or you need to go into the architect workflow, or you need to go into your integration, we would provide a link within the details or a way for you to go directly into that field. So allowing you to kind of navigate across the different dashboards rather than having to manage multiple windows and kind of jump back and forth to the operational console. We want the operational console to be your landing page, but then deliver you directly to the tooling dashboard or whatever it is that you need to go to be able to address things.
Okay, awesome. Well, it sounds like a lot of really exciting stuff is coming out, but I would still encourage everybody, start playing with this thing now. That way you can keep up with the releases as they come and be familiar with the base product as it gets enhanced, because it sounds like a really helpful tool.
We think so.
And I'm sure some people watching this right now are going, I want to see this thing. So let's start at the beginning. After this topic came in and I met Chris and he agreed to do the show, I posted in the community and asked for members like you to submit questions. And we were really pleased with how many people wrote in, because we got some good ones here. The first one's from Anton. Anton, good to talk to you again. Anton wanted to know a couple of things. The first thing was, is there a way to select a grouping of events, i.e. show me all the telephony type events rather than going through each one individually? I guess we can start there, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that we are working on that should be coming out over the next couple of weeks. So we did hear that initial feedback from customers of the UI. And so what we're introducing is a multi-select and deselect functionality within the filter. And so the goal here is, if you're interested in 2 of the telephony events, you can choose those 2 and then omit everything else. So we should have that available here in the July release of the operational console.
Okay, cool. Is this the feature you said might be available when we record? Or is this a different one? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so it's coming out in July. Fingers.
Yes. Yep.
That good stuff.
Yep. We're just working through some of the deployments now, but should be available over the next few weeks.
Okay, awesome. Glad to hear that. Was there a beta for it by any chance that people could join?
There wasn't. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing right now we've been trying with Operational Console is to focus on getting the value out to customers as quick as possible. So the beta was the initial release, if you will, of the Operational Console. So customers have been playing with it, provided feedback, and so this next release we have coming out is a lot of that feedback that we got from the initial UI release.
Okay, awesome. And it sounds like Anton was in it because in his post he also said he's really enjoying playing with the console so far.
Awesome.
And he did ask one more question. He said, we are seeing some events like Architect 0001, which I understand is when I tried to look up a value that doesn't exist, e.g. find an agent, when that agent doesn't exist. From the description, it says the parent entity would tell us the flow ID, but we are not seeing that in the event details. Is there somewhere to show that additional information?
Yeah, so I'll go into sharing my screen really quick, but it was a gap that we identified with with architect events specifically. Some of the architect events or types of architect events do not capture these details. So for one, we did update the documentation just to call out specifically the type, specifically like architect message and email flows are the only ones currently available. However, one of the features that's currently being developed and expected to release over the next few weeks by the team that manages the architect service we'll kind of fix that functionality for you, if you will. So for example, if you come into the operational console, so here's the UI within the admin page. So this is an architect event that occurred a couple days ago. If I were to take this entity ID and then capture that with the architect replayer mode that's coming out, which is essentially providing this link here. And then I take this entity ID, so I just copy the entity ID, add it to this link, which will actually take you directly into the part of the flow that was broken.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we're doing some work, which I'll reference later, that would provide some of the similar functionality within app without having to kind of copy paste two strings. But that is something that would be happening here pretty soon. But again, this functionality is part of the architect replay mode, which should be coming out. I think the GA date is mid-July. And so with that link, and then with the entity ID specifically, you'd be able to capture that information.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm glad we were able to get some good news over to our friend Anton. The next question that we had came in from Katie, and Katie was wondering, can you provide WebRTC health monitoring options that are available?
Yeah, so we do have several. Go back to just share my screen really quick to reference it. However, there are multiple ones that we're actually working on adding. So there are some WebRTC related events here currently available through the telephony events. But we do have 4 new events that should be coming out here over the next several weeks. One is ICE consent lost. Another is DTLS peer disconnect. And then we have both connection errors with WebRTC and endpoint ICE negotiation errors. So those 4 should be added to these telephony events over the next several weeks.
Awesome. And to everybody who's curious, I know Chris has thrown up a couple of links. We'll do our best to include them in the description for this episode and in the community post as well. So a couple of different ways you can find the stuff that he's looking for. Awesome, man. Well, Chris, thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Maybe as some of these new features roll out, you can come back and catch us up.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey everyone, that concludes this episode. Chris was a great guy. Hope you enjoyed that overview and found it useful. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the community, of course, join us. We're always around. We're about to launch our World Festival trivia. So if you want to have fun with us this summer, don't be afraid to check that out. And next month, be sure you're on the site because we're definitely going to be doing something for the Olympics. How could we not? So we hope to see you there and we hope to see you compete. Exactly what the competition will be, tune in to find out. That wraps us up for this episode of the Q&A show, but I'll see you in the community. Have a good one, everybody.